think now it is, actually the question would be, what should Ugandans do? What is the role of Ugandans in the politics of their country? Because, I mean, if we are over 78%, then basically I should say we are still the population that is making up Uganda. But still, to be considered as youth ourselves, first and foremost is that we must take part. If it's going to be elections, if it's going to be bills, if it's going to be policy, we must take part as the youth in this country. And not just take part to be used as pawns, to be used as, to pass people's whatever interest they have, but for us to defend our interests. We must take up positions of leadership. We must take up positions of influence. And I believe that it is time for us to stop saying government tuyambe. It is time tweyambe fenga bavuka. It is time ya kweyamba. I mean, we have seen our parents asking the government tuyambe. We grew up saying that. And where has it taken us? I mean, look at us now. We are where we are today because government teyatuyamba, government teyayamba bazadde baffe. When it comes to issues of policy, and I've had interactions, for example, with leaders that were there back then, that, for example, from Makerere University, they used to have paper, that they used to write papers about different kinds of things. And these are things that would be debated on the floor of parliament, and we would see policy, would see them shaping policy, even students themselves. And I must say that maybe there is a fall in the trend of how things are done, but students need to pick up from where our ancestors left. We need to start influencing policy. When we saw, for example, the Coffee Amendment Bill being discussed and passed, I would think that in a country of understanding youth and of sound youth, we would have had a say, and it would have been clear that as the youth of Uganda that make up 78% of this country, this is where we stand in as far as the Coffee Amendment Bill is concerned. And I think that is something that we are not seeing happening, and I will not say that there is someone else supposed to do it. It is supposed to be ourselves. And I think for me that is what would be the most important. It is time for us to take the mantle, it is time for us to take part in policy, but it is time for us to educate ourselves. It is not good for us to keep arguing and saying that we must take up these things. It is our time. It is your time to do what when you're not knowledgeable. It is your time to do what when you don't have. You don't know what you're going to do. And I think it's on that very point that I will appreciate, for example, the National Unity Platform for bringing up the leadership space. I have seen so many young people that entered here when they were green, and with all due respect, and they came out and they would, make up different points and discuss and give very sensible arguments. So while as youth we are fighting to take up positions, to be of influence, to have authority, it is time for us to be better leaders, to also make ourselves better.
Wow. Thank you so much for that brilliant submission.
Let's make sure that all the youth, I think it's Shamim who said it, let's make sure that the youth members of parliament are elected by all the youth. Sure. So that we can hold them accountable. But Honorable Chair, I didn't ever elect her. So I can't even hold her accountable. So you understand, eh? So those are the challenges we are getting, that these people, they are not accountable to us because we didn't elect them. So we need to put them in a situation where they have to account to us. They have done nothing to the extent that many of us don't know them. You remember the situation when they were increasing the prices of data, yes, and when they were putting taxes on the data. Did you ever see any youth member of parliament coming out to talk about data?
We had dreams that month.
No one even tried. People with the youth are the ones who use data. We are always on internet, our business is on internet, we use internet as a means of communication, and then they bring us studying. Most important, I remember by that time, I think he was still at Makerere, and he was studying, and actually, it came in a period, because the discussion started during COVID. Sure. Actually, that is when it came. Yeah. And in that period, we were studying online. Basically, all institutions were studying online. And youth members of parliament sat there at their homes, got allowances, went to parliament, as they were deliberating on issues that directly affects the youth. They said nothing. So you cannot tell me that member of parliament represents me. No, they do not represent me. And they haven't worked for me. We have so many scenarios where they have you can say someone has come short, but they haven't come short, they haven't done anything. They have not come. That is the word, they haven't come. They literally come. So those people, I don't know what, we have to do something to change the dynamics of those people, how we can hold them accountable, how we can make sure, because I remember even on my Twitter, I used to call them out. I'm like, we're in a situation like this, you're nowhere. You're not helping us. You're not saying, even on their Twitter handles, they just post themselves doing, they don't even do any activities. You know, there are some activities you may not do. You may do that, may not directly be related to your position as a member of parliament, but as a humanitarian aid, charity and what, they don't do any of those. So for them, what did they elect them for? To sit and eat good food in parliament. They have never deliberated on anything. I swear I'm ashamed to even call them members of parliament. But anyway, that's what we have. That is what Musevenism has brought us. So it is upon us, the youth, us the young people. You people, when those of Museveni were young and they saw that this country was going astray, they went to the bush and fought. It is our time. What are we doing about it? That is a question we have to ask ourselves. Whenever you sit down, you go to bed. You go to bed hungry, you've not eaten. You go to bed with no hope of the next day. Better know you are the problem with this country. Because when everything like this is happening, you've decided to sit. You've decided not to talk because you fear, oh, when I talk, they'll come for me and join people. They will take us, all of us, but we have to build a better future for our country. Don't you think those people also feared? Yeah. For them, they even got guns and went to the bush. Our time, we may not get guns and go to the bush, but we have so many ways we can fight this dictatorship. We have social media. Everyone has a smartphone of late. I remember I was in the village when I lost my dad. Everyone was on TikTok. I was like, wow, that is impressive. I was so impressed. I'm like, wow.
In the
so,
village?
yes, in that everyone is on TikTok. Everyone has a smartphone, by the way. And of course, people may say Masaka is not a village, but still, like, you understand.
Of course it is.
It is. Some parts are a village. So those are the means we should use to make sure, one, we get information, and two, work towards changing this government for the better of ourselves and our children.
Thank you so much. I want to embrace the current trend, the youth MPs we have.
I'm surprised that we sit here and talk about the National Youth Council and we have a very big percentage of young people that actually don't know about it. So I could be talking about something and people are like, but I'll still talk about it because these are people that should be entrusted with the leadership of youth. They're the most immediate leadership that we have. And for the Ugandans that don't know, we have a National Youth Council that has a chairperson, it has a vice, it has women affairs, it has very many people, and it has a very big budget that they're supposed to actually be using to deliver to us. But then the first question would be, what do we as young people, what do we as youth expect from our leadership? What is it that we want? That me as Dr. Shamima would say that there is a time when I was done with school and it was time for me to be deployed to work and the government delayed to do so, and that was the time I needed our leadership the most. That was the time I needed our National Youth Council to come out and say, look, these young people have finished school, deploy them to go and work. But I know you remember that we had to march to Parliament, we had to march to Ministry of Health, we had to march to Finance. We were arrested on several occasions because we were fighting for us to be given an opportunity to use the knowledge that we've acquired from school. So I would say that on any day, young people do not want so much. We want you to speak about the issues affecting us. We want the National Youth Council to advocate for young people. When you're talking about unemployment, when you're talking about the status of the healthcare system, when you're talking about the education sector, these are things that we want the National Youth Council to talk about. But you will be surprised if I told you that the only time I saw a statement from the chairperson of the National Youth Council was when he was complaining that their budget had been cut down. Yeah. And then that was like, I mean, you guys, what are you talking about? We don't even know where the other money that you had before, you actually used it for, because you've not spoken for us. And I saw so many people, because he posted even the letter on X, and I saw so many people asking him, what is this even about? Let them even know all the money, because they have not showed us what the role of the National Youth Council is. Another incident was when they organized a failed National Youth Day, and we saw them fighting over 800 million with Balaam, who happens to be a minister of youth. So it is disgusting. For lack of a better word, it is disgusting that the only time we see the National Youth Council come out is when they are fighting over money, which we don't even know where it goes. And And I think it still goes back to the fact that these people are not voted for under adult suffrage, so we are not able to hold them accountable any day. Thank you. Let me just give my concluding remarks because I can see time is fast spent. And I want to say that as young people, as youth in this country, when the Sevens went to the bush, the situation was as is of today. Or should I say it is even worse now because we are actually a bigger population. So they chose to get guns and go to the bush. And for a very long time, they claimed to be non-violent and to want non-violence for us to be able to express ourselves. But these are people that picked up arms, 27 guns, and they went to the bush to fight for governance, for them to be where they are today. And as of today, I think we've run out of bushes in this country. If you moved around here, they're not enough for us to hide. But like I have already said, social media is our bush.
Sure.
Young people, them Sevens went to the bush when they were our age. Some were even younger. I've seen photos of many Kadogos who are much younger than we are. So even on our end, it's embarrassing. And I always sit down with my friends and say, do you know that our children and our grandchildren will ask us, how are you able to survive for 40 years under such kinds of government? Because we keep asking people, how were you able to live under a means regime for those, all those years? But our children will ask us. So for us not to put ourselves in a position where we shall not be able to defend that, it is time we use the power that we have. We may not have access to guns, we may not have access to bushes, but we have social media. Go before that camera and speak up. If you're seeing something not going right, and we always say it is your moral duty to make the oppressor unhappy. Make them uncomfortable. Let him wake up and turn down TikTok like he did for Facebook. Let him wake up and turn off X. Let him wake up and feel like he's now left with only to run away from this country. We must make it so uncomfortable for him. The way we saw him come out to speak during the March to Parliament, I'm imagining if we had a March to Parliament every month, by now we would be done with a better group of those guys. So it is time for us young people, stop the self-pity, stop holding back. We are not older than you are. We are literally the same age. Some of you are even older than us, but we are not afraid to speak up. I've seen so many people saying, me, I can't speak, I'll not get a job. Come on. Which job are you going to get in the past? You will still not get it. Whether you speak or you do not speak, you'll still not get what you want. You'll get better jobs. You'll be in better places when you actually take the government to the people that actually care about you. And I want to conclude by saying that we've lost a national hero. We've lost Honorable Segirinya Mohammed, and it is upon us to see that his legacy continues. I know he had a hospital, he had an ambulance, and as the Minister of Health, I must come out to say that we must find a way to see that that legacy stays, and may he continue to fight hard. Inna Ilahi wa inna Ilaihi raji'un.
Fight on, Mr. Abdul, fight hard.
Thinking of thought capacity, because you cannot start endorsing an 80-year-old person who has ruled Uganda for 40 years and you've not even benefited. You have not seen anything tangible. For me, every time I sit there and I'm in a debate with youth who belong to the NRM, I tell them, just mention one thing. You see, Amin was a bad person, but there are things we will mention that Amin did. We had national stores for agriculture, food, we had fuel in, you understand? We had hospitals, very many hospitals, regional referrals were built during the Amin's time. Mulago Hospital was functional and working. Transported. I mean, there are things, he might have been a bad person, yes, he did bad things, but then there are also good things you can list on his legacy. What can you list on Museveni's legacy? Except abductions and killing people. What is there to list on Museveni's legacy? After he has done this, maybe he has improved transport, or maybe he has improved, there is nothing. The hospitals we are going to are built in Amin's time.
Would you have heard of the parish development model?
Parish, what has it benefited? You've seen on radio, you've seen on TV, the people they are visiting, those who got the money are already also his rich friends. They're the ones who got the money. You see him watering plants using a watering can. Honestly, if we are a country, exactly, using bottles, if we are a country that is aimed, do you know what hurts so much? If they closed Uganda for a week, do you know we cannot survive? We do not grow enough food to be able to sustain this country for just a week if you're not importing anything. What hurts the most is Uganda, we have 3 seasons in a year. 3 seasons. A country like Tanzania has 1 season in a year. They grow rice. But that rice feeds the whole of East Africa. 1 season like this. Uganda, we have 3 seasons, but we don't even have enough rice to feed us in 1 week. The peas we eat in Uganda, we import from Canada. So if you're saying your priority of this country, as ever since you came into power, is agriculture, this country is blessed naturally. We have the rains, we have the sunshine that favors 3 seasons in a year. What have you done in as far as mechanization of agriculture is? By this time, Uganda, we should be exporting maybe onions. We buy onions from Egypt. Those are the onions we eat in Uganda. They're from Egypt and Kenya. We should be exporting matoke in huge quantities, not these small things which they take to the Iko, of which these people are the ones who take and monopolize it. We should be exporting cassava like Nigeria. You understand? We have natural fertile soils. That is why Uganda is a part of Africa. That is why all those big countries wanted to come to Uganda. Why is China donating rice to Karamoja? Can't we grow enough food to give to Karamoja? You understand? So that is where Museveni has brought us. That is where Museveni has taken us. If we do not fight, we as young people, we are going to have Musevenism. Even when Museveni dies, we are going to continue with the Musevenisms for decades of years. So we have to come out as young people and say, you know what? Yes, even if these people of UNSA say X, Y, and Z, you know, when they say, apparently, as 15 million students endorse the President Museveni to come back. You saw the likes on their page. It was like over 50 something, and I'm like, hey, what happened to the 15 million they talked about? At least they should be like in 10K likes. But there were like 50 people. So you get the situation we are in. So we as the youth, we leave those people acting delusional. We have to come together, work together to be able to change it. By the way, it's upon us. Like Shamima said, people are going to ask us, your child is going to ask you, when everything was happening, what did you do? You sat in your home, enjoyed the SC, you ate food which was not even grown in your country, you got a big belly, and that is all you did. And now you're calling them to do something when you're in your old age. I don't owe anything to my parents. I didn't tell them to give back to me, by the way. And the good thing is my parents, so they even tell me, you don't owe us anything. Go, live your future, whatever you do, as long as it's the right thing, we have no problem with you. Because I remember when you were striking, people asked me, aren't your parents scared? I remember in 2019 when they imprisoned us, office must fall. My parents told me, I would rather have you go on the street every single day to fight for your freedom than have a child who does drugs. Me, I'm proud of you. Please go. If they kill you, that is your fate. Because you fought the right battle. That is what my parents always told me. So for me, I am lucky that my parents believe in me. So parents out there, let's not also discourage the youth to participate in these things. It is important because it is their future and their present that is being stepped on. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Honorable.
So we have a time to change the future of our country, and it starts today. Yes, you might have done the past bad, but you can do the present and the future good. 20th of this month, we are changing voting areas from 20th to 10th of February. Be there, participate. Go and change your area of voting. You might have registered, for example, from Gulu or Mbale, but at current, maybe you're living in Masaka. You go and change that you can vote for Masaka. The roadmap is there. It is your time to participate in the changing of the leadership of your country. Start now. That is the message I have for you today.
Thank you so much. Moving on to Honorable Dr.
Please take my concluding remarks, but I'll thank you very much for hosting us. On so many occasions, we don't see young people or youth being called to the mainstream media because they really have their people that they define as the leaders of the country that must at all times have an opinion on each and everything, even when they are not necessarily informed about it. But this is our space, like we've always said. So first and foremost, for me, I want to say that as young people, ask yourself what you're doing. Sit down and ask yourself, and I've always quoted it, that ask not what your country has done for you, but what you have done for your country. And I must thank our president that he came out and showed us that you do not have to be somebody. You know, you can come from being a nobody and cause change. I mean, whoever knew that an artist from the ghetto would be the one giving a dictator and his son sleepless nights. So as young people, it is our time, and we've already said it and we shall keep saying it, that it is our time to come out and take the mantle. Use whatever you have at your disposal. I've seen so many people saying, why should I go and vote? It doesn't change anything. But I must tell you that when Mr. Museveni went to the bush, he had lost, and he wasn't even the one that had been reached. He was not the second. I think he had 1 vote, and he went and fought. So we must have a starting point. Every struggle has a spark. So be part of this electoral process. Be part, go and vote, protect that vote, so that even when we go to fight after the election, when we say now we have proven that there is no democracy in this country, we have something we are basing on, we shall say we took part in the election, but it was rigged. We are now taking the matter in our hands. So do not be afraid, do not fear or what, be part, contest, be a voter, be an agent from wherever you are. And I'll add my voice again. We are changing votability from 20th of this month. All you need is a national ID and a letter from your LC1 chairperson. So wherever you are, whether you're going to be, whether you left the village, whichever place you think you're going to be in 2026, I think would be the best place for you to register. So even if you're a student, universities will have polling stations so you can be part. Other than that, thank you to all the people that have been viewing us for using their data and their time to watch us every Huawei.
The expensive data.
Yes, so thank you for sparing your time to viewing us, and thank you for having us.
Thank you so much.
So much for hosting us and giving us this platform to share knowledge, to educate one another. I would love to encourage the youth out there, the youth watching us right now, to be confident. Be confident in yourself. You know this government is very, I don't know the best word I can use, but they even have that sense like these positions are ours, who are you? You can't take them, they're ours. So, but it is high time we change that mentality, and we can only prove it by participating. So that is why we are all saying, be part of the change that you want to see in Uganda. Take part in the leadership positions. To the youth right now out there, you're listening to us, and we are having an exercise starting on 20th of this month to 10th February, and my colleagues have talked about it. Be part. Start having something you're contributing to the change we actually want to see in Uganda, so that by the time we are actually into the Uganda we hope for, you can actually stand up confident that you actually also took part in it. Then another thing I'd love to advise to the fellow youths out there, utilize the existing platforms. For example, like this platform we're having here, when you get an opportunity to share knowledge with a fellow youth, please utilize it. When you get an opportunity on your social media, utilize it to pass on information to another youth out there. You never know how it could benefit them. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you so much. Councillor Adrian, take a minute and say your last remarks.
Well, thank you, moderator, for hosting us today. And our dear listeners, followers on our channel, thank you for that. As in my conclusion,
grown by the NRM. You've seen President Museveni, he's been in that chair for 40 years. And he has not actively groomed anyone. As a leader, what makes you special? What makes you a better person is being able, it's not the things you've done, but the legacy you've left onto the other people, onto the other leaders that are coming. Which people are going to carry on your legacy? We've been talking about Honorable Segirinya. Which people are going to carry on his legacy? Those things are very important. You set up structures, you set up all these charities, but who is going to carry on your legacy? So if you do not actively train young people, you don't actively mentor young people, now those are challenges we are going to meet as a country, that when this leader exists, it is very hard for the young people to take up that space. But anyway, for us, we are ready. If they are not willing to train us, we can train ourselves. There is so many people we look up to in this world, not only in Ugandan politics, but politics outside of Uganda and outside Africa. So we are ready for the mantle. Thank you so much.
Wow, interesting. Our viewers are actively participating. We are getting feedback. So moving to you, Dr. Shamini. You happen to be a pharmacist. You happen to be the health minister.
Definitely.
Because I'm assuming we are taking power, and we really should. Dr. Shamim, what do you define as a youth in this country? And would you briefly talk about the inclusion in governance of this country?
That's an opportunity, and to my fellow panelists as well, I welcome you to this space. My name is Dr. Shamim Nambasa, the Minister of Health of the Chagulanyi government. I'm former guild president at Makerere University, I think the first female NUPDF president. And I will go straight to answering what you asked. Who do we define as a youth? And the Constitution is very clear on who a youth is, and that would be someone who is between the age of 18 to 29. I think that is what we consider to be a youth in Uganda. And it is not surprising, and I like the fact that you've raised that, because for a long time we've had different ministers of youth affairs, and they are almost, how old is that current minister of youth? I mean, almost 50 years. Yes, and those are things that we should actually be looking into, that as Uganda, who do we define as youth? And we keep having a saying that nothing for us without us. Sure. So, I mean, what is a minister of youth who is not one of us? Much as, yes, I understand we need that kind of advice, but we also need someone that is living in our space, because I understand if I stood here and talked about issues to do with unemployment, if I talked about the high cost of living, it is an issue I share with my fellow youth, but I will not share with Balaam, who has been, in wealth. Yeah. He has had his time to make it to where he is today. But then now, talking about the inclusion of youth, and I'll just jump right in from where Dr. Judith left it, the issue of affirmative action and our inclusion as young people. I appreciate the idea of affirmative action. We have women member of parliament, we have youth, youth MPs, and whatever. But then you find that the purpose of affirmative action is for people who are moving into this space to be empowered. But as I speak today, we have people that have been women members of parliament for over, let's say, 20 years. Those are 2 decades, and I will not be afraid to say that we saw the Right Honorable Kadaga, who has been a Speaker of Parliament, who is the Deputy Prime Minister of today, but you'd expect him to go for a direct Member of Parliament position, because if after 20 years you have not been empowered to step up from the position of woman Member of Parliament, you're not leaving space for the younger women that need to be groomed by the fact that we have that position being included there. So I feel those are conversations that we should be having, but we are not allowing ourselves to have. And in the long run, we have young people, we have youth, and they are suffocated. We don't have where to go. But even yet again, speaking about the youth elections, for example, you find that they have a very opaque nature. That today we have very many young people, 78% of this population, and they don't know what is the process for me to become, a youth MP, for me to become a leader at youth level. And I'm so glad that we have Mariam, for example, here, picking up here and there. But still you'll find that it has been a reserve of the NRM for a very long time. And I know that there is a time when they organized, elections for the youth MPs, it was the National Female Youth MP, and they said, this year the elections are going to be in Mityana. People moved and settled there. And then the next morning, in Masaka, and then the next morning they told them, no, we've changed. We are going to Mubende. So you can imagine such kinds of things, that it is not even well structured, that it is, made in such a way that if you came from the other parties, if you came from the other side as an independent candidate, you do not stand a chance. So you find that maybe it is time we started to talk about these elections being for adult suffrage. Yeah. Let every youth in this country be able to vote for their youth representative in parliament, for their youth representative at district level. I understand it comes with a lot of resources that need to be spent, but I think it is much better that way, because you can't hold someone accountable who you didn't even vote for in the first place, and they also do not feel that they are accountable to you. And then still, I want to talk about we as young people as well. It is time we put down the self-pity. It is time we stop saying, you know, it is very expensive for us to take part in these things. It is very difficult. Maybe we are not good enough. It is time as young people we started to believe in ourselves. It is time we took the mantle and we stopped being used in elections, because every now and then we've seen so many young people having to be put out there to fight elder people's wars. I don't understand why we should be fighting older people's wars, yet the people that we are actually seeing come through are not even for us. And I know I've taken a lot of time, but it goes without saying that I must talk about the current student leaders that we saw from the Uganda National Students Association, UNSA, and they were endorsing an 80-year-old man whom we are not even sure if he's 80 to come and be our president, that we are begging you, we want you to be. You're begging someone to become your president to secure a future that he's not going to be part of. That is absolute. I don't want to be disrespectful, but it doesn't make sense to me. I would actually appreciate it if they came out and were supporting someone whom we know is going to be there during the future that we are actually fighting for. And it is clear that they are doing it for money. It is clear that if you looked at these people, they do not really love that man. It was just for them to get money, for them to do whatever that they plan to do. And I actually pray that they do not get that money. Because as young people, we need to stop thinking about money alone and actually see where we want this country to be. Thank you.
It's interesting. It's getting exciting.
Currently serving as a global youth ambassador for their world. I'm an advocate for quality education for all, most especially for youth. Diving right into the topic, youth inclusion in leadership. Apparently in Uganda, we have what you call the National Youth Council. This is a body that consists of all youth leaders from zone level to the national level. But we are having a lot of challenges faced by these youths in leadership already. You find that on zone level, from the villages, all the villages that make up actually Uganda, they have youth representatives, but we don't even get to know about that. I mean, there are a certain group of people, a certain category of youth that don't even know that these leadership positions exist on leadership, on the zone levels. And you find that all those youths that stand in for these positions, there are 9 positions on village level, 9 positions on parish level, and then you have the division level where I actually want to stand for. So you find that these youths that are on zone level, LC1, and those that are on parish level don't even get paid. Now imagine going into leadership and you promise, how we promise people, how people who vote us expect us to give them service. So imagine you give hope to the people that are putting you in that position you want, and you reach that you don't get any payment, you don't get any activities, and the leaders that we send on the division level, apparently in my division where I come from, the leaders there for NRM. And the challenge we have with the government right now is that they do things their way. They don't do things the right way, they do things upside down. So you find that the level of youth representation in Uganda is really low in leadership, most especially on the opposition side. You find that all the youth MPs apparently are from NRM. The opposition side doesn't get a chance to stand in these positions. So we have a very big gap in youth leadership. However much we make up the biggest percentage of the population of Uganda as the youth don't get a chance to raise our voices or for our voices to be heard out there. Now we also have the challenges that happen in elections of youth leadership. You come in, you want to stand in, you want to represent the youth, you want your voice to be heard, you want to lobby for the youth down here, but when it gets to the election, even the election process is not fair. I was discussing previously with my colleague, Dr. Judy, and she told me that the last elections, actually, there were bullets, firing bullets, imagine, during the election period for the youth. So we have a lot of challenges we are facing, and the government is watching. That is why, as the youth, it's high time to be equal. It's high time we took on the position we have. It's high time we use the energy we have to make some changes in this government, and that is the change that we lobby for. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. I can help you say the future.
Back to the topic, moderator. Before actually I deep in, I would like to state something. You know, there is a very this. Because now you would ask your question out of about 70 to 80% of the youth in the country, if I'm not mistaken. You would ask a question, how many or which percentage out of that is aware about the yet to go elections of the youth? How many of them know the structures and where to log in as themselves? Do you see that? And this is a role of the government to make sure that all youth in the nation know what exactly is going on in regards to themselves. So the government has done nothing about sensitization and awareness. So that one leaves the youth behind, the struggle. And actually another teaching point would be about the affirmative action. Something is bothering my mind whenever you talk about affirmative action. Because I don't think we are a group that is either marginalized or something to do with disadvantage, kind of. We are a group of people that has what share in the country, and our share must not be looked at as something small. So the government should actually create something that brings the youth on table. Like for instance, if we are looking at these different political positions, maybe in the local governance or in the central governance, you would ask a question, on which kind of positions have we seen youth being, included there? As a way of preparing them for tomorrow. Of course, there are no such kind of, opportunities for them. But the point I raised first about sensitization and the deliberate intention of the government to keep the youth of Uganda behind is well explained here. So you see that the government fears a generation which is sensitized, a generation which is well equipped with knowledge. And no wonder why today you see a number of youth don't know what actually going on about these things. So the government responsibility would be one, educate the youth on what to do about this election. Let them know. And then give them empowerment. Because now if the youth are willing, maybe for instance they have been sensitized, how are they going to be empowered in this thing? At first, someone like me would love to, join this kind of leadership at any level. But at the end of the time, I would ask, how do I benefit? And if not my personal interest as what benefit, how will I be able to serve my youth and other leaders that other people that did elect me? Because the government has not put money in things. You get? And if there is no money supporting these leaders, obviously they will also get, demoralized and they will lose interest in coming up for this, for these positions at these levels. So, in conclusion about my submission, moderator, something I would like to actually put on the table is, if we are hoping to have something like, to bring out the youth in these positions, very active, and actually in these leadership structure, these leadership structures being filled by the youth, at least we would love maybe to first focus.
It's making up Uganda, but still should be considered that as youth ourselves, first and foremost is that we must take part. If it's going to be elections, if it's going to be bills, if it's going to be policy, we must take part as the youth in this country, and not just take part to be used as pawns, to be used as to pass because whatever interest they have, but for us to defend our interests. We must take up positions of leadership. We must take up positions of influence, and I believe that it is time for us to stop saying government etuyambe. It is time tweyambe fenga bavubuka. It is time we are kweyamba. I mean, we have seen our parents asking the government to yambe. We grew up saying that, and where has it taken us? I mean, look at us now. We are where we are today because government when it comes to issues of policy, and I've had interactions, for example, with leaders that were there back then, that, for example, from Makerere University, they used to have paper, that they used to write papers about different kinds of things. And these are things that would be debated on the floor of parliament, and we would see policy, would see them shaping policy, even students themselves. And I must say that maybe there is a fall in the trend of how things are done, but students need to pick up from where our ancestors left. We need to start influencing policy. When we saw, for example, the Coffee Amendment Bill being discussed and passed, I would think that in a country of understanding youth and of sound youth, we would have had a say, and it would have been clear that as the youth of Uganda that make up 78% of this country, this is where we stand in as far as the Coffee Amendment Bill is concerned. And I think that is something that we are not seeing happening, and I will not say that there is someone else supposed to do it. It is supposed to be ourselves. And I think for me that is what would be the most important. It is time for us to take the mantle, it is time for us to take part in policy, but it is time for us to educate ourselves. It is not good for us to keep arguing and saying that we must take up these things. It is our time. It is your time to do what when you're not knowledgeable. It is your time to do what when you don't have. You don't know what you're going to do. And I think it's on that very point that I will appreciate, for example, the National Unity Platform for bringing up the leadership space. I have seen so many young people that entered here when they were green, and with all due respect, and they came out when they would, make up different points and discuss and give very sensible arguments. So while as youth we are fighting to take up positions, to be of influence, to have authority, it is time for us to be better leaders, to also make ourselves better.
Oh, thank you so
Group of people, because a few people like 10, 20, 30 are using those funds for whatever they're using them for. And so even the ones that have tried have always come out wrong. Like they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know the reality of the situation of their people they're representing on the ground. That is why I support someone who said that let's make sure that all the youth, I think it's Shamim who said it, let's make sure that the youth members of parliament are elected by all the youth. So that we can hold them accountable. But Honorable Shira, I didn't ever elect her. I didn't elect her, so I can't even hold her accountable. So you understand? So those are the challenges we are getting, that these people, they are not accountable to us because we didn't elect them. So we need to put them in a situation where they have to account to us. They have done nothing to the extent that many of us don't know them. You remember the situation when they were increasing the prices of data,
Yes.
and when they were putting taxes on the data. Did you ever see any youth member of parliament coming out to talk about data?
They are troops that month.
No one even tried. People, we the users are the ones who use data. We are always on the internet, our business is on the internet, we use internet as a means of communication, and then they bring studying. Most important, I remember by that time, I think we were still at Makerere, and we were studying, and actually, it came in a period, because the discussion started during COVID.
Sure.
Actually, that is when it came.
Yeah.
And in that period, we were studying online. Basically, all institutions were studying online. And youth members of parliament sat there at their homes, got allowances, went to parliament, as they were deliberating on issues that directly affect the youth. They said nothing. So you cannot tell me that member of parliament represents me. No, they do not represent me. And they haven't worked for me. We have so many scenarios where you can see someone has come short, but they haven't come short, they haven't done anything. They have not come. That is the word. They haven't come.
Yeah.
They didn't really come. So those people, I don't know what we have to do something to change the dynamics of those people, how we can hold them accountable, how we can make sure, because I remember even on my Twitter, I used to call them out. I'm like, we're in a situation like this, you're nowhere. You're not helping us. You're not saying, even on their Twitter handles, they just post themselves doing, they don't even do any activities. There are some activities you may not do. You may do that, may not directly be related to your position as member of parliament, but as a humanitarian aid, charity and what, they don't do any of those. So for them, what did they elect them for? To sit and eat good food in parliament. They have never deliberated on anything. I swear I'm ashamed to even call them members of parliament. But anyway, that's what we have. That is what Musevenism has brought us. So it is upon us, the youth, us the young people. You people, when those of Museveni were young and they saw that this country was going astray, they went to the bush and fought. It is our time, what are we doing about it? That is a question we have to ask ourselves. Whenever you sit down, you go to bed. You go to bed hungry, you've not eaten. You go to bed with no hope of the next day. Better know you are the problem in this country. Because when everything like this is happening, you've decided to sit, you've decided not to talk because you fear, oh, when I talk, they will come for me and I join people. They will take us, all of us. But we have to build a better future for our country. Don't you think those people also feared?
Yeah.
Further, they even got guns and went to the bush. Our time, we may not get guns and go to the bush, but we have so many ways we can fight this dictatorship. We have social media. Everyone has a smartphone of late. I remember I was in the village when I lost my dad. Everyone was on TikTok. I was like, wow, that is impressive. I was so impressed. I'm like, wow.
In the
So,
village.
yes, that everyone is on TikTok. Everyone has a smartphone, by the way. And of course, people may say Masaka is not a village, but still, you understand.
Of course it is.
It is. Some parts are a village. So those are the means we should use to make sure, one, we get information, and two, work towards changing this government for the better of ourselves and our children.
To fight for their fellow youths. I mean, for example, there is this instance that happened last year, the march to parliament. We saw the fight against corruption. I mean, and many youths were actually imprisoned for that. Did you see any youth leader coming up to fight for us? So we have a very big gap in youth leadership, and it is high time. I don't know how this is going to happen. I know those people, I don't know. But we just need to change government, and that is the solution.
So just right there, you're trying to show that already the system existing is a failed system.
It is a failed
So,
system.
of all these electoral colleges need to be abolished. We happen to have a youth member of parliament, Honorable, I'm forgetting the name, he's representing the Eastern region. I remember during elections, he was taken to court, and he lost the case of him not being a youth anymore. But however, he's a son to Honorable Tango Joy. He followed his way in parliament. We don't even know how. I want to thank the people of Shalom, people watching Shalom TV. Our viewers are all watching, so we are here. I'm going to read some of the comments. We thank you so much for joining us. Kenya Christine, thanks Mr. President for the opportunity you gave us. Wow. Mr. President must have pride.
How do we see, youth coming in, being included in politics or leadership?
How do you help? Okay,
How do we help them?
Yes.
Okay, how do we, what
How
do we have to do?
they manifest their presence?
Okay, thank you. First and foremost, moderator, I have to agree that there is something we need to tackle first. A great activist once said, ignorance is the best enemy of the people of the nation. And when the people of the nation are filled with ignorance, there is nothing good can come out of that nation. So I bring that today on the table on the matter of the youth. The youth of today need to get serious sensitization. I don't know who may carry this responsibility, or with the leaders, or the government, but we need to let them know.
We've already said we are doing away with this level. So now we are talking, we want to give a picture of a Uganda that Honorable Robert Chagulanyi is leading as president. How best does it front the youth?
Well, of course, we need to first tackle the issue of education.
Sure.
We have to let these youth know what is their mandate. Which role do they have to play? So if the youth are not educated, you have nothing to do with them. You have to first let them know their responsibility. You have to first show them the direction. And the direction can only be achieved if they really know what's going on. So we have to go down on the ground as the leaders of today, maybe from the youth perhaps, and maybe use all mechanisms, all channels. Could be the internet, could be this radio station, and what have you. But our target, our strategy should relate about educating the youth. it is so surprising if you happen to go deep in the areas of remote areas, and maybe you want to assess how best are these youth in those remote areas equipped with the knowledge about leadership in regards maybe to this leadership structure and whatever. You find that most of them are agreeing about it. So our role should be one. Let the youth know their role. You could be maybe a leader, or you could be just an activist, or you could be a student from any institution, but you have to see how to help the youth to know their role to play in this. So we have to use the social media platform, of course.
From us. You see, the participation in politics, the marginalization of the youth in participation in politics, you don't see it in only elections, but in the things that happen in the country. We've been looking through, when you look at the panels of the people they post on TV, you see them inviting any youth. Even when they're talking about youth matters, they will invite someone that is 35 and above. And you ask yourself, okay, so and there are young people who can speak, and there are young people who know these things that can deliberate on them. When do they keep inviting people who are 35 and above to talk about issues of the young people? I have seen it so many times. Actually, it is rare that they invite a youth person to talk about youth matters. So, you know, media shapes narratives. So if media is directly doing that, they're shaping the narrative that we youth are not competent to go in those positions of leadership. That is a narrative being shaped. But what can we do as the youth? You see, like Shamim said, we shouldn't be victims. When you identify a problem, you have to get a solution to that problem. Because if you don't get a solution, you're going to be a victim for life. You end up your life just passing by when you don't achieve anything in life. But we as young people have to find solutions, and we already have the solutions. We have social media. Young people, you have that phone. You don't need to go to a studio to record yourself. You can just wake up, even if you're not even showered. Just clean small, put your camera in front of you. You have a very big weapon in front of you. That whatever you've recorded is going to be seen by everyone, by most people. Actually, social media moves faster than mainstream media. So why are we being so kind? I don't know, why do we fear social media? Why do we fear cameras? As long as you're saying the truth, as long as you're saying the right thing, you don't need to hide away from camera. So we should use our social media platforms. Actually, as a youth out there, if you do not have an X account, Facebook account, TikTok account, you have a problem. Because those accounts are only not for politics, but business. Most of our businesses are being driven through those accounts. For me as a doctor, I get so many clients via X. I get so many clients via TikTok. So for me, those are my livelihoods, so I cannot leave social media. So it is very important with the youth. The next is internet, still social media, is a platform for information. You know, in the days of our parents before internet, those people had to go to school to learn about something. Those people had to ask maybe someone who's already learned in their village to know about something. You people, just a second, I can just take my phone and Google what I want. I can just take my phone, go and read research papers about what I want. What more do we need as the youth? These things are there. If they're inviting me to a panel, I can just go to a research and read a research paper about whatever they want to talk about. Like, we have these things on our fingertips. We do not need to be as slow as our parents were, like slow to information, slow to knowledge. Our parents, by the time they were growing up, they didn't have electricity. They didn't have light. So when it clocks 7 p.m., you're going to bed. Us, you can read the whole night. You can WhatsApp the whole night. What excuse do you have that you don't have information? So this is a different era. We should not be having excuses. And next, we can use our leaders ahead of us. Try to get information from these leaders. If they don't give you, it's on them as just a bad person. Go to the next. But all in all, you know, what I learned in life is leadership or a position in life is not given. It is taken. No one is going to come to you and be like, oh, you can take it. No. I have to decide as now what would you think that I want this position and go for it. Otherwise, nothing in this world is given. Everything is taken. Whatever you want in life, you have to take it. So young people out there, you want to change your country, you have to take it. No one is going to give it to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.